Good morning everybody and welcome back to a very exciting video where I have an empty base plate. I've been wanting to make this for a really long time, but today we are going to show you guys my custom castle faction that revolves around these guys here. This is a standard soldier from a faction that I've been sort of designing and creating that's designed to sort of fit the castle aesthetic but maybe be a little bit cheaper than Lion Knights, and I'm going to show you how that is the case later on, as some of these parts might look fairly nice and expensive. But instead of just being boring and wanting to collect Lion Knights and so on, I wanted to do something myself with a bit of an aesthetic and a story. I guess similar to what I've done with the Ice Planet Troopers that I've acquired, if you guys have seen the videos that I've made on those. However, fun fact is I actually started doing this before the Ice Planets, and it's all centered around this torso here, but we'll come back to that in a second. So today I'm going to showcase this army alongside the rest of my castle collection. That includes some Lion Knights, some Black Falcons, and some new factions like the Kraken Knights. And then we're going to use the brand new siege encampment to set up a siege on the Lion Knights castle. Maybe we'll use Black Falcons, or maybe we'll use these guys. So let's get some figures on here, and I'll talk about the sort of lore surrounding them a little bit later on. So to start with, we have our standard unit here. These guys are designed to be a lightly armored faction rather than super heavy, and the thinking behind this is that their battle tactic is preferred to sort of rush in a sort of all for glory, not that there's no strategy, but in a much more aggressive and fast way. I guess similar to just fast moving troops that overwhelm their opponents by no one knowing that they're coming. As I said, it's centered around this torso here, which, believe it or not, comes from Ninjago, but not any whole Ninjago minifigure. This torso was used in Ninjago City Gardens, the 10th anniversary set, on the Master Chen Noodle Shop 3D sign. So there was a figure of Master Chen that was had a bowl of noodles, and he was actually part of the build. He wasn't a separate minifigure. And this torso was from that, and it has been on Lego Bricks and Pieces, the online service, for multiple years now, and unfortunately has actually just left Bricks and Pieces, and I only have 5 or 7 of them, which is a little devastating, but this is what started the army. So we've got a fair, casual oriental kind of styling going on. We're actually using coal Ninjago legs here just for some in effect armored trousers. I mean, there is some plate work on there, but again, the idea is sort of light, but with a little bit of golden accenting and so on. Maybe the orange boot printing is a little bit out of place, but I like the sort of belt with perhaps a sash between this tunic. And the reason I like this print is because obviously it has no Ninjago logos on it, which makes it more useful for me, but also because it felt very sort of jerkin-y, as in light armor again. Not quite samurai, but that kind of aesthetic of still wearing it into battle, but it's very clearly cloth. And I've accentuated most of them with various bits of armor. Let's bring a couple of other soldiers in. So we have this guy here with a sword and a shield, and I will talk about that in a second. We have a second sword and a shield, which you'll notice has the exact same armor, shield and sword, the only difference being the head and the hair. And I've really enjoyed messing around with heads and hair. I then have this third one here, which if I bring up close, again, the only difference here is the use of an armor. But once again, no, or not many, I should say, over breastplates. We've just got the shoulder piece here. Again, sword and shield. And then another one that is sword and shield with the same armor, and that is another one there. So we have 4 of those as our base unit, but the other type we have is our spear troopers. So again, same shield, a different legs, again, just any black legs with a little bit of red or orange detailing or golden plating is sort of what I've been going for. Black legs is basically the motto I look for. And you'll actually notice if I take this figure apart, and this is one of the ways that I've kept the cost down. One, by using regularly available back pieces and cheaper body armors than having to buy Lion Knights. But this is the ethos for the real army, is being able to use this very cheap torso. So there's torsos for miners and for firemen with dark red arms and a black base, and with some unsubtle belt that I can cover up with a breastplate like this, and then we're using just generic heads wherever possible, including this one with a sweatband. Now, Octane, you might be saying, you just said light armor, and yet you've got this one in full breastplate and spear. Well, what I came to realize is that while light is my goal, I'm pretty sure that all the official Lego factions are effectively light, as if I grab a Lion Knight, they usually have more armor than this. They've got chainmail, they've got the sigil, and they've got the jerkin. So I guess these guys are just more athletic. I don't really know. Anyway, I need some variation, and the whole goal was to do this with cost down. So having this breastplate on here is really helpful. So I hope you guys can forgive me and don't think about it too much. But again, no sort of double-handed swords. We've got swords and light round spheres, shields, and then we've got a spear group as well, who again are going to be nice and adept at throwing it. With some more variation in the spear troops, this one's got the same shield, a slightly different pair of red legs, and is actually using a Samwise Gamgee torso in dark tan, which makes him stand out. So this one's more of a conscript, more of your base level soldier who has sort of only just come into it. We've got the hair here and then a slightly different spear build. Again, it's all about those small variations like we've talked about in the past. If we want another one, here's actually one with a different shield. This is using a Nexo Power shield, again with that dragon sigil. I don't know if I've said the name yet, but this faction are called the Soulfire Dragons. We were going to go with Redfire, but it felt a little basic, so Soulfire Dragons. And I'll explain the lore once we get to the generals. We're almost there now. So again, this guy actually has the same spear build there, but has the different shield. We have two designs that I'm going with, which is the Nexo design and then this Ninjago core dragon one, both of which feel similar aesthetics, but again, adds some variation. And this one has the medieval helmet, reminding me a little bit of Eowyn actually, but obviously that is besides the point. And again, a breastplate here to cover up another fireman torso. Now, as you might expect, one of the downside of buying used dark red parts for cheap is that sometimes they get breakages. But I actually, in this one specific case, I'm actually quite glad this broke because it adds a nice bit of variety to the soldiers. We've got a spear build here, and this soldier still gets to participate, but only has one arm. There's no prosthetics in my medieval scene here, so it just has to live with this cracked torso, and it added a really nice bit of world building that I enjoyed. With this Ninjago banner, which I guess is sort of my third different sigil. Again, it doesn't have any dragon patterning, but it feels fiery and oriental, so I was very pleased to have it. We've got a bit more of a kettle helm on there as well. That's not the right name, but ignore me. And that is sort of the 8 standard troops. Before I show you the gimmick here, because there's a reason we are called the Soulfire Dragons, and it's not just because we're a standard military unit, let's introduce you to some generals. First up, we have the main leader of the entire army, and I'm not quite settled on some names now. I'm happy to take suggestions, but if we think about the aesthetics of fire, we've got sort of red flames. We can mess around with ash as an aesthetic. We can mess around with blue fire, which you'll see a little bit later on, lightning, and then also a white flame. I don't know if I want to call them the white flame because I feel like that's probably been done in pop culture, but that arm here is definitely supposed to signify that. Actually comes from 2 different Monkey Kid characters. I believe we've got one of the villains or one of the celestial peoples here, their legs with a little bit of that teal brought in, which I think is really nice. And this is actually a common technique that I've seen used. This is the Monkey Kid team torsos from the 5th anniversary lineup, I want to say. And it's actually the back. So the front of the torso is down here, and it has all this like various different printing on it that's kind of useless to us, and it's a little ornate, but it looks too much like a Monkey Kid torso. But around the back they have these wonderful clasps, and it's a bit more elven, and I really like that. So I really enjoyed using the front of this torso, and I changed the arms out so that they were the ones here. They were gold originally, I think, but we've got white with gold hands. And then he's got a little black shoulder pad to bring in more of that sort of burning aesthetic, and then a pure black sword with a dragon hilt here, which is actually using a dark saber blade. So I really love the way this guy stands out. My favourite feature about him is obviously we've got the beard and the long hair, but don't let that fool you. His eyes may be sort of clouded over, but he's still got a little bit of pink. We're using the Dragon of the East head from Monkey Kid, so he's got that little bit of a pink expression on his eyebrows, showing you that once he was indeed a fearsome leader, and he still is. And let's see if we can add him to the front. I fear that I've put these guys too close to the front of the base plate here, but we'll add him to the front, and I'll slide that back a bit. But we don't have that. We also have his young daughter, who is still being trained. Yes, this is technically a skin tone. This is Echo's torso from Marvel Series 2. Again, bought this figure at retail, used it for parts. You'll see the other parts show up. But yeah, this is again the back of the torso, because the front had too many markings for my taste that were too recognizable. And technically this is actually Echo's skin color, but to me it's like a shoulder padding. It's a little distracting, so I may change out these arms one day, but they are beautifully detailed, and we're just using some robe mid legs here to just continue that pattern. And she's not impressed that she's not been allowed to join out there, and she also hasn't developed her power yet. She does have the small knife, which is my spare from the Gith warrior from the Dungeons & Dragons series, and then some long hair, and she is always by her father's side, not quite old enough to do anything. Unlike the other one, who may be a daughter. I haven't decided yet whether I want her to be the daughter or just a cousin or just some evil general. But here we have one of our 2 generals, and I've actually brought this one out because she is in charge of the main unit here. All of our generals though have a form of pyromancy. Before we talk about her then, I better explain the lore here. Now, When this faction acts, they are acting in the name of their dragon, and they have been gifted an ability, or some of them have, called Soulfire Pyromancy, and they are able to sling fire, which is why we've had no ranged units. They can sort of launch different flames at different projectiles and differences, and this is an ability that everyone in this region wants. However, our general soldiers here don't have it. They are sort of convinced and conscripted into joining this army by being promised that if they achieve glory, they will be blessed by the dragon and gain pyromancy. However, we will discuss in a future expansion to this army how that actually works, but let's just say that's a lie, and lots of these soldiers will end up dying thinking that they will receive pyromancy, and in fact they don't. It's most likely just genetic or a pilgrimage into a cave to meet the real Soulfire dragon. So the reason that these guys are called the Soulfire Dragons is because the pyromancy they do comes from the soul. It's all to do with their sort of inner balance and anger. That meaning when you first get your pyromancy, you're maybe a little bit confused like this poor guy here. And he's wearing the jerkin again, which is a sign that he's only just sort of leveled up a little bit and is just slowly gaining his power and getting more confident. As you get more confident, and if you choose not to sort of balance your soul fire, you'll notice that more and more of your body becomes sort of enraged with fire. Not quite demonic, but you sort of get taken over a bit, and that results in characters like this who actually have a transparent arm, a transparent head, and they're sort of running a little bit hot. So you'll notice that they've ditched the jerkin in favour of being shirtless, just to match that hot aesthetic and that bit more barbarous. You could even say that it's maybe burnt up in their anger. So this is one branch of your pyromancy, is you slowly learn to master it, but you let it control you as you use your anger to fuel more expansive fire constructs, and you sling fire further. But it comes at a cost, and you can see we're using various different Ninjago, Nexo Pass, so even stuck a power burst. This is incredibly unstable, but it does just about stay on its head. And they've got various different bits of armor, but these are our long-range troops. Now, the other option is that you can find more balance and inner peace, and this guy's chosen to keep the jerkin, but you don't have to, and then that unlocks you your blue fire. And this blue fire is obviously a hotter flame. It's more controlled, but you notice he's at peace. He's in complete control of the fire, whereas someone like this has just fully given into it, and the fire is in control of him. As you can tell, he's a bit of a nuisance. He's got a fire whip. He's almost fully demonic. Again, there is no demon possession, but they're just very, very angry, I guess. So that is sort of your pyromancy developments. On the other hand, though, here we have anger and control. So this, as sort of a ranking member here, she's developed a special form of pyromancy which allows her to do the ultimate fire strike, being lightning, which I guess is a step above blue fire in power, but isn't quite as balanced as the blue. And you can see here she's got a very maniacal facial expression, a little bit of a fur cloth, and is actually using Lord Raz's torso and legs from Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 1, but again I've changed it out for bare arms because you imagine that lightning is quite hot. So she is one of our generals. She is in charge of the general troops specifically because as you can tell, she moves pretty fast. She's a runner. As I mentioned, that they like to run fast, so she's sort of leading the charge, giving their lightning zaps to sort of zap everyone. But we have another general. He may not stay the general of this specific range, but this is our general in charge of the pyromancers, so the people that I'm going to bring on screen and show you in more detail now. But if you're a fire slinger, this is your commander, and you can see here that he is a bit more ornate than our other ones. He's maybe a little bit rivaling our leader here. Maybe you would think he would be the ultimate leader, but clearly he just has a taste for bling and has maybe a bit of an ego. He's got a big red cape from the Series 13 Wizard. Here are Echo's legs mixed with the Monkey King from Series 19's torso. He also has a dragon hilt with a big blade, but obviously he is not in charge, and then a very angry face where he has got this flame here. So he does have pyromancy. He is a very advanced form of pyromancy, hence the sort of, I almost want to call it a decay or sort of taking over by the fire. And I haven't quite decided, but maybe they don't stay like this when they're not actively fire using. Maybe this is only their phase when the pyromancy is active, and maybe this guy goes back to normal when he's not. But this guy is in charge of all the pyromancers, so he would not be quite on the front lines, but he would be telling them to light fire and then launch the fire, or launching tag teams, because your pyromancers can indeed go up first and launch a long way as well. Anyway, the lore is nice and flexible. I can still do stuff with it. He's also going to have a different power set, just like we have our lightning user here. There's definitely more of a connection to sort of smoke and ash and soot here, so there's a chance that I might make him be able to teleport at short range, just to bring in a little more fantastical elements, but also so that he could do infiltration and sort of disappear into smoke or something. But that might be a little bit far-fetched. This was designed to be a semi-grounded faction. Let's put him down over here as well. So while it definitely is a case that there is this fantastical element of our pyromancy, but I wanted it to be grounded no more than Magisto. So that might be a step far for me, but let me know what you guys think. Let's go through our pyromancers then. So again, I have this sort of early recruit, and you can see he's a little bit struck up by the fire. He's a little hot for him as well. So he's brand new to the pyromancy. We have another fairly new recruit, although he is definitely much more keen on this and is enjoying the power that it gives him. He's got a sword and a hilt here, so he hasn't fully given up on conventional weapons, but he's launching fire, and he strikes me as one that would sort of run in early. He's got one transparent leg that's been taken over, so he's the cost of pyromancy is sort of coming true. But not quite as much as these next few. We have a couple more soldier likes. We've got this lady here who's lost a leg. We also notice her torso is a lot more glowy. The armor's become a bit more fused with her body. And she's got a power blast here, so her whole hand is on fire as if she's shooting it. But again, she's chosen that a katana is also useful to her, so she seems like another one that would be running straight in on a siege tower. Another one that's still got some armor is this guy here. He's got some war paint on his face. He's shooting fire out of his red corrupted arm. He's lost a leg in battle, but again still has a sword and a top knot. Maybe not as fast of a runner, but definitely a projectile launcher, but he's still got a sword to defend himself. I really like this flame piece as well. It's a lot of fun. Let's put him back here. We have this one here who is very largely corrupted. Not only have we got that same corrupted torso, both arms, but also a very enraged and flamey face that really only works with that one because it is a stone army head. So much so that the fire is even bursting out the top of his helmet. He's shooting a big projectile burst, so that's like what I mean, like they're effectively archers from a distance, but can also burn up close, and has another power blast piece in here. I really shouldn't have put fire in everyone's both hands, so I need some with empty hands, I feel. Moving slightly away from the arm, we have this one here who has a slightly older breastplate. This is actually from Series 26. This is the Orion torso, which I despair of. We've got a trans-red arm here with a flame and then a bigger flame, and then this wavy hair in the wind. Perhaps the creating of the fire has put some smoke up. And she actually has some facial tattoos, or perhaps this is a sign of the fire taking over her slowly as well. But she's also got some magma legs, so clearly the pyromancy has done its work. We also have this guy. Who have we got here? We're moving away from armor for sure now, who has got a big armor piece but a completely corrupted red torso, still has the standard legs, and actually has a fire banner. He's not doing any active pyromancy at this moment, but he is indeed capable of it because he's got that torso. Perhaps he should actually be up with the front guys. He feels more like a battalion leader, so actually he might be in the wrong section, but I do like the fact that he's got the sigil on his back. Back to pyromancers though. We have this guy here who's lost his torso. He's got his quiff, which doesn't make much sense. Some basic armor legs, but then these two lava pieces drooling from his hands, ready for him maybe to sling it across, taking people out, or just to create a puddle as well. I like the variation that we've got. Like this guy who has pyromantic like staff like which he's swinging around. His full torso is corrupted. He's sweating a little bit under that beard, but he's basically got double fire blades. Again, they're not strictly blades. They are like pyromancy, but you can imagine there would be like a sword underneath, which is what he's using to swing those around. You've already seen these two, but we've got this guy here who just strikes me as cruel. He's got the barbarian torso, fire, and then this whip, and his full head has been taken over with this flame coming up the top. It's completely goofy, but he definitely strikes me as someone that's let the anger get to him. And this guy you've also seen with the silly power blast on his head and the trans-red arm and so on, and the shirtless torso, bringing some more of that yellow in as sort of a secondary colour. Definitely dark red is the main, with black as a secondary, and then accents of silver and yellow with a little bit of dark tan coming in places as well. And then we have our two blue fire wielders. who are both more in control. I will do more of these eventually, but these are definitely slightly more elite than the reasoned ones. Again, they're not led by their anger, they're just completely in control of their fire, and that is what has given them the ability to use blue flames, which I don't have many of, which is why we don't have many of them. But I like this guy's power arm as well, and he's maybe a bit hippie-ish as well. So we've got those two. Again, slightly more higher troops on the pyromantic side compared to the red fire ones. Let me lift the camera up and give you a complete overview then, and we'll talk a little bit more about the lore. So I've not done a really good job at laying them out here because they're a little bit disheveled, but to be honest, that kind of strikes me as right. You've kind of got your core of soldiers down here with spears and swords, our generals of various places around, including this battalion leader, and then around the back, a little more chaotically, again, remember they're sort of running and charging and maybe using siege towers, but a very sort of less about formations and more just about running and launching that fire. They're all a bit chaotic, a bit barbarian horde-like at the back here with their flame powers. So as we mentioned, they are soulfire dragons. They're using slight oriental accents, really, in the form of obviously the dragon shields and then the tunics and so on. And I think that carries through the whole army. Maybe it's lost a little bit more in the pyromancers, but that is the case. You start off and you're sort of convinced to join the army at the promise of gaining immense power and gifts from the dragon. Obviously that doesn't usually happen, but when you go through the ritual, you gain your pyromancy and then you can progress through the army in other ways. I like the concept. It needs more fleshing out. I probably missed some of the lore dump that I was supposed to do, but for now, I think let's introduce you to the line knights that I have and then get this siege going. We're going to move those out of the way today and bring in the official lot, which is on one base plate here. This is my full, I'm calling it my full castle collection. Technically, I have some other minifigures that I would count as fantasy, such as various different dragons and so on, but these are all the ones that I guess ascribe to a faction or a specific section of LEGO history. And I don't actually like throwing minifigures on a base plate, but I thought I'd map them up here, and we'll take a look at these laid out by faction as we attach them to the siege. But on the left side here, we have all of our Lion Knights with the Queen at the front, the CMF King, two goats in the middle. We've got Black Falcons on the right-hand side, and then towards the back we actually have some Retro Knights, which I've decided are siding with the Black Falcons. A couple of Retro Lion Knights as well, but you've got the Griffins and the Krakens from the New Ideas prize machine. I tap this back on. The Series 19 Fright Knight, as well as the Basil remake from Series 25, and actually the Orc remake from Series 24 as well. So a couple of different CMF ones. We've got Forestman over in the back corner, and then even though it's not really a faction, we have the Dragon Paladins, which I have two of from the D&D series. And actually, besides those CMF ones, pretty much all of the Lion Knights here have come from either the Lion Knights Castle, there's the one with the roller from the Siege encampment back here, and then just my own customs from the Bricks and Pieces wall, whereas only 3 of the Black Falcons come from, of course, the Lion Knights Castle, and then the rest come from the Siege camp, and that is it. Like, all of the army comes from basically those 2 sets, which is cool. So after all that faffing, here it finally is, all set up, and I didn't use Black Falcons in the end. I did decide to use the custom fire armor, which of course was the main focus of today's video. But you can see, of course, that I had to take the Black Falcon insignia off the tower, and we've got them sort of raging all over. And because, as we talked about with the pyromancy and stuff, you've got lots of fire blasts. They're pulling this down here, and I did have some help with this layout from a good friend, so that was much appreciated. But we've got a couple of different scenes, so I'll do a quick overview and then I'll just take you guys around. But I did think it proved the point that our new fire faction, the Soulfire Dragons, do work really, really well for this context, and have been very successful in their invasion here, and they do fit with the siege tower. So as for a couple of the scenes we have our leader and the daughter down here with our visiting Black Falcon mage. We did add a couple of extra figures that won't be in the final army, but yeah, you can see some allegiances playing out here, and we've got our cheeky little Lion Knight coming over here to steal the tent. We've got our first of the Soulfire Pyromancers here dealing with this cow rather aggressively, and he's taken down this cart here, which is being burst on fire. We have one of the conscripts here who's starting to make a push forward, as well as the catapult, and then even a reinforcement for the Lion Knights coming, who is about to get boxed down by this horse here as well. Trebuchet is unmanned. It's actually a little bit close. As you can see, there were actually a couple of builds missing from the siege encampment. This was very much a front line. I removed all of the back builds. Yeah, they're just hidden in the room, along with all of the black falcons and figures that we didn't use in this specific layout. And maybe we'll do something with them in the future, as I do really like them. But again, I want to showcase our new faction. As we approach close to the front, you can see that the Soulfire dragons are making an approach, and there's a couple of soldiers waiting in there. I think they should probably lower the portcullis. There's one Lion Knight, and of course the Dragon Paladins, who are aligned with our Lion Knights, who are doing a good job of boxing them down. But one of our more meditated the pyromancers here is sort of shooting and stopping the crossbowers up top from doing any damage. You can see he's blasted our trumpet fighter. Queen is leading the field, of course. We've got the ghost here as well, and the drummer, and then our old Lion Knight that we talked about earlier, and one that's either been knocked off or jumped off, and the tree's slightly on fire. I was surprised. The fire stuff is really basic, but it does kind of add to the vibe that I'm really happy with. Another knight down here, and then this poor peasant who was escaping has been targeted by this other pyromancer down here as well. One Lion Knight round the back, who is going to chop down this ladder where some fire people are coming in, and we've got one of our more controlled pyromancers again, who's about to deal with this horse after this poor soldier here is certainly not going to be getting any battle honours and probably won't be surviving. As for the actual siege tower itself, we've got conscripts climbing up. We've got a couple of pyromancers sort of protecting. You can see one here, and then if I remove this guy out of the way, you can see one more, and then a banner wearer, and then this guy is sort of like the in charge or chanting with this specific offensive. And then if I come right round, you can see that there's about 4 or 5 soldiers all charging down. A couple of the normal infantry and a couple of pyromancers, some of the more energetic ones. You can see that trans red arm there. As she comes off the side. I do like that she's got a really long jump if she actually wants to hit that knight. And then as for sort of guards, we've got 2 there that are coming down the stairs. You've got 1 in the pit. This guy here, the one with the funny hair, has knocked this soldier off, and there is still 1 crossbower actively shooting. Up on the roof, we have Magisto dueling it out with one of our generals, who is still unnamed, and of course the Yule log soldier is just completely useless around the back. There is one more scene we have down here. The general has, I think we're going with the idea that he can be a bit sneaky or has some sort of ability that allows him to move a bit more undetected, maybe some sort of smoke powers. And he has actually made it inside where the king and then the prince, who is very scared and cowardly, are facing off. And this archer here has been taken out by him as he performs an insurgency into the castle. And then one last archer up here as well. But yeah, the siege works really well. I really love how they look sort of piling into the castle. I might keep this up, or I might change them out for Black Falcons when I put my castle back on display. But I love the siege camp. I think in particular, maybe less so with Trebuchet, but the siege camp suits them really well. And overall, yeah, I'm quite pleased with how this turned out. And I really like the direction the faction is heading in. Yeah, of course, it's not up to quite the same standards as say the official ones like Lion Knight, but I like it, and it's cheaper, as for all the reasons we discussed earlier on in this video. So let me know what you think down below, and I hope you enjoyed this look at what hopefully we will be expanding in the future. As I talked about a couple of plans earlier on, I'd like to do those beetles and of course expand the infantry a bit more. I also want to get some more generic flame wielders who don't have flames in both hands, and of course more of our general soldiers, because I couldn't put anyone on the ladders because they all have flames in double hands. Yes, I'm aware I can move minifigure accessories, but really pleased with this scene, really pleased with them all together, and let me know what you think. It wasn't intentional that I'd have a castle and space quote-unquote army. Again, I don't really count space ones as armies, but here, that's how it turned out. Anyway, I will see you guys again very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.